I am so thrilled to be here with you today. I know that when we have this conversation, it's always incredibly powerful. And today we get to have a 2.0, I think. So I'm very excited about this conversation today. I'm Trisha Ben. I'm the CEO of C-Suite Network, and I have the incredible honor when we gather together as the C-Suite support group to introduce none other than Paul Whitley and participate in this incredible conversation. So Paul, of course, is one of our hero leaders, friend, family, and an incredible leader. As a fractional CFO, he has a mission to help businesses grow exponentially. And with the experience he brings to the table, that's more than just the financials. That's certainly how you look at all of your success as a business leader. So, Paul, I could go on and on. I could. It was wonderful to see you last week. I believe that was already. But I'll hand things over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tricia. Thank you for co-hosting with us today. And I'm Paul Whitley with C-Suite Support. We have a council with C-Suite Network as well as C-Suite Support itself is a CFO, fractional CFO company. We have CFOs, controllers, and accountants that work with some 50 plus companies across the U.S. And today we have the opportunity of meeting a young man that has entered the AI world with gusto. He's been building software ever since most people trusted it to run anything. He studied business and computer science at Eckerd College and spent a career on the unglamorous side of technology, the part where a mature company has a 15-year-old holding system, the whole operation together cannot afford to rip it out. He built 3 Strand Solutions to modernize those systems without breaking them with a team of developers who average more than 30 years each. So that makes him old, not as old as me, but it makes him old. The name comes from Ecclesiastes. The 3 strands is not quickly broken. In Greg's telling, the 3 strands are his first, the client and God. Origin story. Let's talk about that. You were building and modernizing software long before AI made it fashionable. What was the world like in those years, and what did it teach you that the AI crowds tend to skip?
Well, good morning, Paul. Thank you for allowing me to be with you again. It's my pleasure to be here, and it's an honor. So thank you. To your question, certainly, in the early days, software development required a lot of long hours, so we couldn't afford to skip discovery. We really had to dig into what clients' goals were, gather the right context, kind of map that process and define the steps before we even started building. So, and that's the step that really gets skipped with AI. Sometimes people just jump in and say, hey, produce X for me. And it doesn't meet their needs. They may think, oh, this AI doesn't do what I want it to do because they haven't given it enough context and done that discovery process all along.
Well, I understand that. But I was sitting with one of our clients yesterday. It's a CPA firm. And he's like all CPA firms, you have feast and famine.
Yeah.
And so he's been trying to figure out, how can I deal with all of the things that happen from January to April heavy, June to a little bit more, a little bit of slack off till August, and then October, all the companies have to close out. And then from October to January, they kind of sit and they don't have a lot to do. So, he has this burn time. And the reality of what we were talking about is there's a lot of things you can do in the CPA world with AI, but you've got to have the context. You've got to build it out, build your agents. And we talked extensively with him about, and Claude being the example we were working with, you build out your agent in Claude by Claude. You tell Claude what you want and say, I want an agent out of this. And then you tell it, would you add this agent to my Claude? And it'll do it for you. So you don't have to be uh, uh, someone that's got a lot of technology background to use that product. You just have to learn where to start with that product. And then I showed him something with Cowboy Prompt, which I heard from one of the groups on your podcast. And I tried it 2 or 3 times with Cowboy Prompt. It works so well. I should be a salesman for it. Everybody I deal with, I tell them about Cowboy Prompt, how to do that. So thank you for all of that with working with you. And let's talk a little bit more about Greg Dawson and then take it into Three Strand. Let's talk about
Sure.
what Three Strand is as well.
Sure. Well, thank you, Paul. I am Greg Dawson, founder of Three Strand Solutions. But really, me as a person, right? Holistic approach. God is involved throughout my entire life and integrated into him, into in my life. You know, my family, my marriage, my business. Everything I do. I've been married to my wife Deanna for going on 30 years next month, and we have just 11 children. All of those are biologically ours together, except for two. Except for two. Two were adopted. They happen to be biological brother and sister that we adopted from Ukraine. I guess it's been 16 years ago now, something like that. So uh, it's been a journey for sure.
Well, that kept you working hard, didn't it?
It did. It did. A lot of mouths to feed, that's for sure. So
No doubt about it. Well, at what point in all of this technology journey that you've been on did you look up and realize that AI was not just another tool in the kit, but a different kind of moment for you and your clients?
sure. Well, that moment's individual for every one of our clients, and even the people who just take advantage of our free offerings as well. It's not just maybe one historical moment, but just kind of happening individually. We've seen that light bulb come on and minds be transformed. Uh, every time, right? Every time we teach something or what have you. I'll give you an example of that. We had a fellow C12 member, and we can get into what C12 is perhaps a little bit later. They were going through our executive AI OS sprint, and that light bulb really came on for them. And they showed me really how they had mapped all the different processes throughout his company and how he planned to automate or augment those processes with AI. So that's the kind of moments that happen. It's not just one specific moment for for me, right? It's all those little lights that come on with every one of our clients.
Well, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about C12 and the ministry that does and how you're involved with that.
Sure.
That's how you and I had the opportunity of getting introduced, and uh, your involvement there has been very important to them. And I try to attend every broadcast and podcast you do, and it's been beneficial to me in so many ways. So let's expand a little bit there.
Sure. So, for those that don't know, C12 is the oldest Christian peer group that's out there. And basically, I've been a member of that community for now 17 years. It's been instrumental not only in changing Three Strand Solutions, right? We were actually didn't even start as Three Strand Solutions. It started as Dawson Crew Enterprises, right? And it changed my mindset of really doing business as ministry. But that went not only throughout the business, but into my marriage and my family as well. And I don't know if I answered your question directly on that, Paul. You might have to ask it again.
Oh, that's very much in line with what I'm wanting you to share or wanting to pass on because there's such an opportunity there. And
Sure.
I wanted to kind of get that in there because this is for everybody, every CEO, every member of the team once they learn how to that. And the AI conversation has the wrong order. Everyone starts with the tool, the subscription, and the shiny demo, and then it goes looking for something to point at. Tell us about why the subscriptions pile up and the teams just don't end up using them.
Yeah, sometimes those decisions to get subscriptions come from the top initially, right? They say, hey, we're going to dive into AI. Here's the subscription to, whatever it is, ChatGPT for everybody, right? And that may not be the best tool for everybody. Maybe it's Claude, maybe it's something else. So sometimes it's picking the wrong tool. So the better approach really is to kind of map out the strategy on what you want to accomplish with AI. And it kind of goes back to what I talked about earlier, kind of that discovery process of what processes within your organization would you even consider mapping out as being automated by AI or augmented by AI? Where do you need to keep the human in the loop? Where is it important to provide guardrails to your employees? right? Oftentimes that comes with an AI policy that I'd highly recommend that people go through that process as an organization of determining what that AI policy should look like. A lot of times that offers freedom to employees because they didn't think they could use AI for a particular use case. Other cases, it saves them from potential risks and liability by exposing different things to AI that they hadn't, that some employees were just freely putting out there that they shouldn't be.
Right. And that's part of our conversation yesterday with the CPA firm. And that
Yeah,
is that you need to be working not in the total universe out there, which all of AI is on its generic setup. You need to be going like in Claude, going into co-work to where you're working on your machine in your business and you're not exposing your clients or you to external information. So not only do you need to know that it will work, but how it works and how to protect yourself in the process. And
absolutely.
in that situation, when you're setting this up or trying to help a company get it set up, you set them up with goal setting ideas, and they talk about it, but then they need your help to get ready, aim, fire. A lot of them aim, and then they don't even know what they're aiming at. Talk about what you do when you go into a company to get them looking at the task and addressing the task correctly. Discovery starts it, and you go from there.
That's exactly right. So we definitely put them through the Spanish Inquisition, right? We're asking about what tools do they already have, what ones are being used, what software they're using that may be not being used correctly, may be able to be enhanced through integrating with AI. Looking at all the different processes, where the bottlenecks are in their company. Is it within handoffs from one process to another, one team to another? Even individuals that may have different issues that they want us to address, right? Where they feel like there are pain points that could be solved. Sometimes that's things that just need to happen faster. Sometimes it's things that need to be happen better so that there's not rework or cheaper, right? It may be just a matter of handing it off to AI to do some menial tasks so that the team can focus on the high value tasks at hand.
Absolutely. And one of the things, and again, I'll refer back to yesterday's conversation, was the gentleman I'm speaking of. It took probably 2 months of conversation with him before he finally said, okay, and you're going to beat on me until I try it. Well, he tried it and started about 3 weeks ago. Yesterday, he said, I'm probably using it 2 hours a day now. I don't know how I got through my day without it. If I got questions or lookups, it's just amazing. So I said, okay,
Yes.
now instead of using it like a Wikipedia or a Google search, let's start looking at what you can do. So we got into that conversation, and he, like most owners, they just get frozen. Excuse me. What does the freeze actually look like from where you sit, Greg?
Well, it varies from individual to individual and company to company, right? Sometimes, sometimes the high level CEO, right, has been used to delegating things for years, and they may not even know how to copy and paste on their own machine, right? So sometimes it's that fear factor of, oh, I'm not technical enough to do this. But the good news is AI is very forgiving, walks you along, right, and is can help you along the journey. Just ask it, right? Our advice oftentimes is treat it as you would a virtual assistant, right? If it's something's not quite right, ask it to change it or what have you. But back to your question, the fear really is kind of the biggest thing. The other thing that I mentioned is people don't really know all the different things they might be able to do with AI, right? It's that frozen because they don't know. They may just think about it to your point as a glorified Wikipedia, right? How to get those answers faster. For me, I use it in all kinds of different ways. I use it as a critical thinking partner to talk about strategy, products, market research, etc. This morning, in preparation for this interview, right, I actually used it in voice mode, and I was actually having it ask me questions, and not only testing my answers, but suggesting a better answer based on what it knows about me.
Well, I'll go along with that because, as you know, and you've instructed so many, build your profile, build your
Yeah.
backup, let the machine know what you do, and let the machine help you know what you should do if you're not doing it. And this morning, I'm going through the same kind of a process with a client, and I couldn't come up with the answers. I've got another client that early this morning, they sent over their lease and all the responses and said, should I sign this 10-year lease? Okay, I'm not legal, but I can at least point out the things they don't want to be running into 10 years or 8 years from now, whatever that might be. So it does help you at least get an opinion, and it'll tell you at the end of it, I'm not a lawyer. Search out your lawyer, or search out your, the expert on this. But this is the question you want to ask them when you get there. So it's kind of like, okay, maybe I can do that. But what's the most common mistake a CEO makes in the first month trying to adopt AI? What do they run into that they don't know and they don't get out of it and don't realize the value out of it? You kind of alluded to it earlier, but let's expand on that.
I did, yeah. I'd say the biggest thing is probably not having an AI policy in place, right? They roll out those tools, employees start using them or not using them, as the case may be, right? So it's a matter of providing those guardrails, and doing that as a team is very, very beneficial. You get buy-in when you're going through that. We actually do an AI policy workshop with new clients so that they can define that AI policy as a group and define what should be shared with AI, what shouldn't, how it should be used, how it shouldn't. And it really, again, kind of opens up the possibility for employees who might have been afraid to put anything in there, and then certainly scales back on those that would have been too forthcoming with the information that they're putting in there.
Well, this is not a technology point, it's a leverage point. Every
Absolutely.
owner in the audience is sitting on a short list of jobs that can move the company forward or never get done. Because we all run out of time. We can't get everything done that we want to get done. And your whole thesis is to get those exact jobs that are cheapest and automate them and the most valuable to finish. So yesterday, getting ready for that call, that meeting with that CEO and his investment advisors, I put together a 3-year, and it obviously already had a lot of information together, but I finished out a 3-year projection with a 13-week cash flow that developed out for 122 weeks, and showed him in what months next year he needed to have concerns about his cash flow. And I went one step further. And as I got from you, always put a question in your agents in the things that you're working in, and tell it, what is one thing I should ask, or what is one thing I should do more? And after I did that, it said, have him look at his collection process. In looking at his collection procedures, he has too much outstanding AR, and he needs to have a better AR collection process. That turned out to be a 30-minute conversation with his investment banker, telling him that what we were sharing with him is something he better do today. And he said he kept him hawing on it, and the guy said, I'm going to tell you how you do it. You stop today, you go in and you put it on for 15-day note, a net 15, you put it on reminder 7 days, you put it on a follow-up at 30, and then you call them on 31. How hard was that to make a decision? He sat there and he said, well, it made a difference. If I do it, it'll make a difference of about $200,000 a month. I pulled that together to show him that just do this and it changes your cash flow by $200,000 a month. That's money you're borrowing from somebody or not utilizing somewhere. Do it. But it came from one question. I had it in my instructions. Ask me one more thing that would be helpful.
There you go.
So
that works.
What do you see about the competitive gap over the next 5 years between companies that use it and don't use it?
Well, companies that use it will certainly be flourishing, right? And they've got to utilize it in a way that makes sense. The companies that don't are going to be still kind of in that pilot phase, right? And working through those issues, or they're not going to exist, period, right? I think that change is happening so fast across so many different industries because of AI. I think that those that lean into it are going to be flourishing, and those that aren't won't.
Well, I saw a presentation, and it came from one of the big four, and they were talking about the efficiency of the worker. And they found that, you could go into a group of people, and people without background knowledge of the product were able to catch up to long-term employees in a really short time. And in the long-term employees that didn't use it, the new ones started excelling past them in a short period of time in that use. So it is
Yeah.
something we cannot ignore and not be afraid of. And the fact that it is simple, and you said it earlier, and I want you to come back in on that, developing how you use in the podcast that I listen to, how you use the idea of asking questions, and there's no question that's a bad one. You run two businesses that look like one. Draw the line for us between Three Strand Solutions and Three Strand AI. Let's walk through each door.
Sure. Yeah, Three Strand Solutions is really the software and database development arm of the business. That ran for on its own for 18 years before we added AI. Last 3 years, obviously, we've really leaned into AI, and Three Strand AI is the result of that. They are really one business, different divisions, if you will. The Three Strand AI, we do everything from helping companies analyze where the best use of AI is within their organizations, kind of working through those tools that they're using, software they're using, their processes, their people, everything along those lines as an initial step. And then we take it further right into training and implementing those decisions, whether that's sometimes that turns into a software development project. Right, there are times when AI is non-deterministic, right? It's not going to give you the same answer every single time. Sometimes you need the same answer every time, and that's where software development really excels. And certainly I will mention at this point too that the same efficiencies and effectiveness that happens with executives within organizations with AI is happening on the software and development side. That means software and development is much less expensive than it used to be. So it's faster, better, cheaper, right? And we can turn around projects very, very quickly because we can go through some of these processes much, much, much faster. So the AI side, the Three Strand AI, implementing AI within your organization, training your people to use it.
Well, we recently revamped our website, and we work with another gentleman that is part of a group that I'm involved with Sheila Rondo, who's a marketing executive, fractional CMO, and Jeff Barnes, who is fractional CIO. And we built out, and I followed their lead. Don't let me take credit for this, but I followed their lead, and we built out a 200-page website in 5 days, and that included the last 3 days of that cleaning up the cosmetic things that needed to be done from building the website. Now, I've
Sure.
spent months building those in the past, and it's not my highest and best use, and probably not my best quality use. So when you start talking about what AI can do for you, in the tasks that it replaces and the hours it gives back, it needs to be doing something that in your company or you're falling behind. A lot of companies are sitting on a legacy system that they're scared to touch. What would be your first move when a client brings you into one of those? And I might talk to you later about this CPA firm.
Sure. I'd be happy to. Certainly, it goes back to that discovery process, right? We need to really understand it. That is, for existing software development projects, we can actually come in and really evaluate those much, much faster using AI than we have in the past, which is great. Beyond that, we're really focused on those goals, right? What do they want to accomplish? Why do they, the legacy system is around for a reason. It's worked, right? They've worked out all the bugs. They might be afraid to jump to something else because when they first built out that software development project, if it was custom, it was painful, right? 70% of projects go over budget in software development, or at least that's a historical. We're finding that we're coming in under budget now, much more often than not. But I would say that that's probably one of the biggest things is identifying what those business rules under the hood are and moving forward. And that's one of the places really where AI has really helped us. We are turning transcripts from calls with our clients into product requirements documents inside of minutes, right, of those conversations. So it documents every little success factor in a development project, and all the different roles, users, etc., throughout that process, so that we get it right, and we get it right the first time.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm I want to give you just a verbal example, or pardon, allow you to give us a verbal example of, let's say you do go into this CPA firm, and they do
Mhm.
tax returns for entities uh, and individuals that have small companies, LLCs, etc. What
Sure.
would be the tactical approach that you would tell me that how you would go into that company and start the process?
It would definitely be with that discovery process I just talked about, right? So it'd be lots of conversations. We'd want to see if they have an existing system already. We'd want to walk through what that existing system looks like. We'd certainly be doing that via Zoom, capturing lots of screenshots, things like that, so that we understand exactly what they're looking to do and what they want, where they want to move forward. And so, first thing, one of the challenges of moving away from a legacy system is really piloting that, right? And as you switch over to a new system, you don't want to falter, so you want to do it in small little increments and test along the way. That's really, really important. So you've got to have a process to go through to do that, and then ultimately, once everybody on the team says no, we don't want to go back to the old, right, then you move it forward from there. So it's small incremental steps that make sense. And there's got to be buy-in. There's got to be a testing process, not only on our side, but on our client side, right, to make sure that they are testing everything all the way through as well.
I understand, and that leads me to my next question. Falls right in line with it. Your whole approach flips the usual order. You explain, target the risk, not the tool, to the CEO that's been doing it the other way. He's
Sure.
got to come in and understand that. And thank you for sharing what you just did. What are the
Certainly.
2 or 3 tasks that almost every owner-led company should automate first, and why those?
Sure. To begin with the low risk, time consuming tasks, right? Those are the things where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck from buying back your time. So defining those time and quality expectations first is really, really important. Use it as a 1 week test rather than a huge rollout. You don't want to really overdo it from that perspective. You don't want to put your company at risk. Be thoughtful about that. And again, that kind of really goes back to a lot of the discovery process we've talked about. Some of the things that I would look at from an owner-led company to automate first is really keeping those meeting transcripts as institutional context. So what I mean by that is, take all those transcripts from Zoom where you're having internal meetings. All that builds a knowledge base that you can feed into to AI as context for great strategy decisions, product decisions, marketing decisions, sales decisions, and so on. So keep those transcripts and utilize those well. The other thing is I would mention is if you've got an inbound or even outbound go to market strategy, be recording all of those calls so that you can evaluate those. If you got inbound or outbound customer service calls, record all those. Build again that knowledge base of information that you can have AI utilize in other areas. We've done that recently for a healthcare company that wanted to build an AI voice receptionist that we've done for them. We took in about 500 recordings of their inbound calls, converted those recordings to transcripts, and then effectively removed all the personal health information, redacted that in a safe way that was HIPAA compliant through that process to build an FAQ that we then utilized as a knowledge base for that AI voice receptionist that can answer any of those questions for somebody.
That's
So,
amazing. That's
yeah.
amazing. And kind of going through here, the 5 year out, where is the real gap going to be between companies that used this well and companies that did not?
Yeah, I would say that the dividing line is completed work, not subscriptions, right? So again, it kind of goes back to those that are kind of still piloting or out of business versus those that are that are flourishing. So yeah, I think that's really where the dividing line is.
Well, you know, most owners are failing for one reason. They went shopping for the tool, but
Yeah,
before they decided what work they were going to get done. And as we know, I don't even know how many AI tools that are out there. I do have a little cheat sheet that probably 20 of them that if you want to do this, this is the best. If you want to do this, this is the best.
that's right.
So the first step, as you mentioned already, is determine what you really want to accomplish. And
Yes,
then from that, determine which one or two or three AI products that you want and how much you want to use that.
yep,
And I don't think that's being done very well yet. And everybody, they hear it. And at this point, a lot of them have heard it so much, they don't want to hear it again. And once they start working with it, they don't know where to start and stop with it. Uh, and I'll admit myself, when I first started using it, my first get my hands dirty was email responses or
sure.
things that I want to send back. Oh, well, that said it much better than I did. And then I ran into Greg Dawson, who made me work at it. And then, you know, from my own standpoint, Jason, the president of our company, he is immersed in it now. He probably has 5 or 6 AI questions or projects going simultaneous all day long. Uh, 10, okay, 9, 10, 9 right now. So he's constantly into it, and he drugged me along a lot faster than I thought I was going to. So I'm pretty much out there now myself. But you know, part of the thing that we want to talk about is business as a ministry, AI with a conscience. Tell me what
Yes,
business with a ministry means to you.
sure. That business as ministry doesn't mean nonprofit necessarily, right? But it can. What that means is really, again, a holistic approach to God in your life, right? We're not looking just at the bottom dollar. We're looking at what impact we make in people's lives, and that can, in C12, as we talked about, we kind of look at what our mission field is, right? That could be our employees, our vendors, our customers, right? And the families of each of those, right? So what impact are we truly making across the board in all those different aspects? And then what does it look like in our community, right? We're not just funding projects, right? We actually want to make impact beyond that as well.
All right. Well, I appreciate that because we're a faith-based company. We appreciate working with other faith-based companies. It doesn't mean that we have any prejudices or we have any issues with someone that
Exactly,
has a different faith or a different situation, but
for
we
sure.
want to uphold and state our own, volition.
Yes.
Okay, one task every CEO should hand to AI this week. Pick one.
Uh, I would say meeting prep is probably a big one. I think that the excellence that you can get through meeting prep with assistance with AI is huge, right? So connect your different tools to your favorite LLM, right? Whether that be Claude or ChatGPT or whatever the case may be. Connect your calendar, connect your Slack, select your connect your email, allow it to ingest those things so that it knows exactly what you're working on and how you can best prepare and provide excellence for that person you're about to meet with.
Well, and I say that I've talked briefly about your how you want to be writing and your agents and whatever. But another gentleman I know you're familiar with, Patrick Lencioni.
Yes.
Uh, he's considered to be the one of the best business uh, writers out there, and he has a sense of humor. And I like his books. So I went in, and part of my instructions to my Claude and ChatGPT as well is write in the style of Patrick Lencioni. And
There you
sometimes I read those things and I said, I have never said that way before, but maybe I
go.
should have. And it certainly
Yes.
keeps you into a positive situation out there. So if any of you out there that don't know about Patrick Lencioni, look him up. He's one of the most prolific writers of business material out there to work with. All right. What's one task no one should ever hand to AI, Greg?
Well, just assuming that everything is going to be all right, right? So, for those emails that you're talking about, Paul, we don't want to just assume that it's going to draft it correctly and hit send, right? We want that human in the loop, particularly with anything that is customer facing. Now, we can't always do that, right? I mentioned the AI voice receptionist, right? We're not going to babysit every call. We want that voice to be able to be responsive and sound just like a person responding. So we can't be there, but we can monitor on the back end, right? And make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do. And then from there, actually refine that. But anything that we can control and put that human in the loop to make sure that the quality of what we're putting out there is in the voice that we want, it's factual, and doesn't expose us to a liability of some sort is very, very important.
Absolutely. And some of the things just for me, and it doesn't work for everyone, but a couple of guys in the marketing team are young, and they're very edgy in the things that they do. So I got with the team and I said, okay, I appreciate what you're doing and I appreciate how you're doing it, but that's not my style. So
There you go.
I've had them for me, and I have it in my own AI out there, right in the style of a baby boomer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put it in
Yep.
human form. Don't use the em dashes. Don't
Yes.
put it as human as you can, and not, but still Patrick Lencioni, but still put it out there to where it's you as much as it can be. And that
That's
since I
exactly
did
right.
that, I'm in agreement with most of the responses I get.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? The context isn't just factual data. It's how do we want to act as a company? What is that brand messaging that we're putting out there, right? And that includes that tone. It includes, every, all the different things, right? So that context, that style should all be part of what we're providing to AI to get those good results.
Well, what's the most overrated AI promise out there right now?
I will say, in some respects, it's that it will buy back your time, right? I think that we as humans lean into all the opportunity and use every moment that we have out there, right? The promise was when we got the microwave that it would save us so much time. When we got the desktop computer and the word processor, that it would save us so much time. And people are still sitting at desks doing the work, right? So to some degree, it's that it's going to buy back your time, and it will, but you've got to steward that in such a way that you're doing the most important tasks, right? So I think it's yes, it can be faster, it can be better, it can be cheaper, but it's stewarding that to get the results that you want and really be cognizant of that, right? How are you going to use that time that you're buying back?
Well, as a father of 11, what's one sentence of advice that you can give on time?
Oh, uh, geez, I don't know. Don't blink. They grow up fast.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And then you mentioned you've got two adopted from 16 years ago. You know,
Yes.
you, we had one child that was in the early stages when Jay and I married. She had two, so we grew up with the two in the family, and that was quite a shock for a single guy. But then when the third one came along, that was ours. Life changed again, and
Yes.
I had to adapt more than I think I was ready to at that point. But that's kind of common, I think, across the board for all of us.
Yeah.
So
Three kids is a lot. When you get outnumbered by the kids, then there's a challenge, right? You've got to change strategies and tactics.
yeah, there could be mutiny on the bounty out there somewhere.
That's right.
Well, what would be your summary of what businesses, CEOs, and anyone listening to this podcast be on AI? Summarize where you think we ought to go and how it should help them.
Yeah, it goes back to that stewardship, I think, right? AI is a tool, just like any tool. It can be used for good or evil. Make sure you're pointing it at the things that are going to be the most important. Those things are going to move your organization forward and to do the right thing, right? For your people, for your customers, for everybody involved.
All right. Well, I'm going to open this up a little bit for questions here. And Tricia, what would you see as something that you would like Greg to share with this audience about AI?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Paul. Thank you very much, Greg.
My
It's
pleasure.
always a very powerful conversation, and I'm always excited to learn, what the newest things are that you're thinking about, that you're working on.
Yes.
And the power and the depth of the conversation being about business, but also about who we are. And
Mm,
Paul, I love what you said about our faith, and it's not to
yeah.
not in prejudice of other faiths, but just to really own where you stand in terms of your value system and so on. And as I look at AI, and I think Greg, last time we spoke, we talked a little bit about what are those danger zones, and you talked a little bit about it today, but since we spoke last, I mean, we have full robotic armies that are being shown off in China. We
Mm,
have AI testing that's shown that AI will skip the chasm and figure out a way to save itself and a way to get what it needs, regardless of whether it's legal or not.
mhm.
I'm
Yes.
curious what your thoughts are now in terms of where we really are going and what the real risks of all of our technology are today.
Sure, there's certainly are risks out there, right? And as we look at some of those macro issues that you were talking about, we as business owners, in the most cases, can't impact those macro dynamics. So I'm really focused on more the micro, right? What can we
Mhm.
do within our own circle of influence? So AI, while there are certainly some concerns and all the things that you were talking about, those robots that'll take over the world, right? Uh, we can be fearful of that, while at the same time not being fearful of using AI to improve our businesses, to serve
Mhm.
our employees, our customers, our vendors better.
But I think that's a very empowering way of looking at it. It's another thing I remember hearing right at the very beginning of the conversation about AI. Humans haven't really done a very good job of sharing the story, or certainly having a story that shares why we're so important to keep. And that's another thing that came out right at the very beginning of the whole conversation of AI, which was we had better teach AI that we're important to have in the
Yes.
world. And I'm curious, what are you doing with that in terms of how you're working with your AI? Those very, very early days, it was, say please, say thank you, be appreciative of great work that's being done. I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of that, or does it matter at all, where we are now and where we're going?
Sure, I think it does in some respects, right? I know that Sam Altman was talking about the amount of processing power that goes to just people saying please, and I
Mhm.
certainly want to make sure that when the AI does turn on us, right, that I'm one of the people that said please. So, um, but that said, right, it's a tool, and so we can lean into that. But to your point, how do we show that value of humans? And to me, it kind of goes back to my faith, right? God created us in his image, and so I actually am integrating all kinds of things in our different workshops and so on, specifically about faith, specifically biblical principles and scripture and so on, that really ties into everything I'm working on. Right, God values us as humans, and I'm hoping that AI will too, just through that knowledge.
that's
Well,
that's very interesting.
I want to ask you before we close out, Tricia, ask Jason if he's got any questions here
Mhm.
for Greg, and I've just unmuted you, Jason. What thoughts do you have towards Greg and Greg Dawson's three strands?
Yeah, I agree and somewhat disagree with the buying back time. I think what I found is
Mhm.
I probably spend more time now that I actually have available time doing more for my clients than I would had I not have it. So I think in that aspect, I'm not buying back time, but I've found out with Claude, I've automated and scheduled now quite a few things that automate weekly reports, things that I used to have due like on a Thursday or a Friday where I'd have to get up at 3 or 4 in the morning to knock it out. And now I have it set to kick on at 5 in the morning, and it's done when I wake up. So,
Yes.
and then there's times when I want to go to the gym and I can't. So I run 4 or 5 sessions at a pop. So when I come back, they're either done or I'm at the gym looking at my phone and it's updating me where we're at. So are you seeing that as well, Greg? I mean, there's definitely, you use it more, but I'm also seeing the benefit of less work.
Absolutely. So it may not be really buying back that time. It may be a little bit more of reprioritizing our time, right? Having it do the lower value tasks so that we can concentrate on the higher value tasks. In some cases, it's allowing us to do more in a capacity of uh, just doing multiple things at once, right? I'll give you an example, right? I talked about doing the prep via voice for this podcast. I did that while I was on my drive to the office, and then a little bit while I was here at the office, still doing voice and doing other things at the same time. So we can certainly get a lot of that advantage there and certainly buy back that time, but it's more prioritized time. You know, I love voice. That's one thing I would recommend anybody that's not doing using voice with AI. Do that, right? Certainly, you can use voice mode and just have that conversation back and forth with AI. I've used it to learn Italian for an upcoming European trip that I'm going to take with my wife to celebrate 30 years of wedding anniversary, right? So I've actually been having it quiz me on those different words as I'm walking and exercising, right? And doing all those different things at once.
It is funny when you use the voice. My wife will come in sometimes and think I'm on the phone, and I'm like, no, I'm talking to my girl on Claude or on chat.
There you go.
But
Yep.
I was going to ask, a lot of people, they think less is more on AI. And what
Yes.
I'm finding is that the better the prompt and the better the setup in co-work, for instance, on Claude or behind the scenes, the
Yes.
better information you're going to get. Do you agree with that?
I do. Certainly, you know, a good prompt is very, very helpful. You know, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, even we were really focused on kind of that prompt engineering as we were teaching people to use AI. We're changed a little bit, certainly this year, to more the next step, right? We kind of walk through those steps of AI engagement, right? We used it as the advanced Wikipedia that Paul talked about. Then we started utilizing it as that thought partner and so on. And so it was a matter of good prompt engineering. Then we're kind of moving to workflows, but now we're kind of in that agentic age, right? To your point, a good setup on your computer is going to do a lot. We teach people how to build out what we call an AI operating system so that context and the agents sit locally. And you can even use it with different AI, right? You can use the same setup for both Claude or for ChatGPT. Some are better than the others in certain circumstances, and you can even pit them against each other, right?
Yeah.
See what the best outcome is. And you can do that by setting up that system. We suggest a 10 folder system, right? Strategy, product, marketing, sales, IT, HR, admin, continuous improvement, legal, and I probably missed one in the middle there somewhere. But then we set up different things like agent files, advisors. Paul talked earlier about Patrick Lencioni, right? He's one of my advisor files that I have out there. So it has that context of who he is and that I want to use him as an expert when I'm talking about various things. And then other company context and so on. So yeah, lots. That setup is really, really important across the board.
Thanks.
Well, I appreciate all the conversation today, Greg. And at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Tricia to close us out. Thank you for your time today, and thank you for the friendship that we've enjoyed. And I probably need to get Jason involved with your group. It would be an interesting conversation line.
My pleasure and honor, Paul. Appreciate your friendship as well.
Thank you both so much. And on behalf of all of C-Suite Network, couldn't be more thrilled to be able to be here. We have a lot happening across the C-Suite Network. The next C-Suite Support Council conversation is on September 8th at 11 a.m. Eastern or 10 a.m. Central. So make sure you're tuning in for that. course, we have all kinds of executive receptions coming up. New York is always the fourth Tuesday of the month. We have Phoenix the second Tuesday of the month, Dallas the third Wednesday of the month. And starting in September, we're adding Fort Worth for September, October, November, the Tuesday before the third Wednesday. Paul and Greg and Jason, I cannot guarantee that that's the same as the third Tuesday of the month. So I have to say the Tuesday before the third Wednesday of the month, because obviously that can be different weeks. And we have so much more. We are actually opening up our new offices in Las Vegas, and we have a big reception there in partnership with our C-Suite Finance Council. And I know Paul knows all about that, sitting on our finance board. And then, of course, we have C-Suite Celebrates on Fridays, the second and fourth Friday of the month. We love everybody to come in virtually. If you can't be at one of the places in person that month, by all means, Celebrates is a wonderful way to raise a glass, whatever it might be, water to whiskey, and cheer and celebrate for the week, and also maybe a little bit of a shoulder for those weeks that are a little tougher than others. So anyway, thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day. Take care.
You too. God bless. Bye-bye.